Welcome to the Making Money in the Music Business podcast, where we share insightful views on a variety of topics in the music industry that can help you make more money from your music business. And now, here are your hosts, Dr. William E. Smith and Kenya McGuire Johnson.
Hey, Kenya, we are back.
Back, Dr. Smith. I look a little different today.
Yeah, it looks nice. I like that little background you got going on.
This is where I usually do my coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And when I meet with, clients and students. And so that other area is my more artsy area, but this is this is a much easier area because this is where I'm usually more. This is more of home. So anyway,
you got like the dry plant activity going on.
And those of you who are just listening, again, you got to go to YouTube so you can see. Look up 3MMB podcast, and you'll see. But I've got this. I've got a boundaries book, which is a book I refer lots of people to.
Right.
I've got my little cube here that actually it gives me like different things to do each day. Oh, it's on Be Silly. Maybe I'll do the Be Silly today. Anyway, so this is so enough of all of that. We are just you and I today. Just you and
us. And we get to some good nuggets when we were here talking on our own.
Mm-hmm. And we'll be doing just you and I for a couple of episodes, but then we'll be bringing back some people. So before we get into today's topic, I'm going to let you share a business tip.
Quick music tip is CD Baby has a very useful tool, and just found out about it. Mm-hmm. And, we talk about planning your releases, your CD releases. They actually have something where you go on the site and it'll walk you through what you need to do for your music release. Like there's a pop-up and you type in like the name or whatever, and it sort of generates, it's like a wizard. It's like an online wizard of doing your CD release. And so I thought that was very useful and helpful for people who just don't like to read lists, or they just need somebody what do I need to do next? Okay, bam. Right. And they just walk you through it. So they got a free tool to walk you through your CD release.
Well, they stole my idea I should have. I mean, I had that. I know. I had been saying forever that I need to create some type of checklist or some kind of, boom, 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 so that people can just boom, boom, boom when it comes to releasing their music. But that's okay.
Well, I have a checklist. It's in my book, actually. It's in the back matter of my book. It's a release, CD release checklist. But CD Baby just won up both of us and did a nice little wizard. So that's cool.
Took it over.
It's all good.
It's all good. It's all good. Well, that's a very good tip, and I cannot urge people enough.
Yes.
To please, you have to have strategy in your release. You cannot just drop a bomb. I know it appears that is what your major people do, but I promise you, it is not. It's incredibly strategic. And then in order for you to have longevity, in order for you to be able to see your song move and be promoted properly, you have to have a strategy of how you're going to release it. So that is my soapbox. Please go check out CD Baby if they're offering that. That's really good.
We'll put a link. I have a link to it. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Cool.
Well, today's topic, this is actually a topic that I discussed on Clubhouse, because y'all know I'm on Clubhouse. Follow me at Kenya MJ Music.
One of these days I'll be there.
I know. I officially have a Clubhouse called Finding Your Voice. Our membership is growing big time, which is exciting. Last I looked, I think we had over 100 people. I don't know. There's a lot of people in the group. And so there's a regular room that I run with Tracy Cruz, and room means a topic, basically. Every Thursday, actually, called Singer's Guide to Success. And so one of our topics that we did was transitioning from virtual to in-person gigs. And so that's what I wanted us to explore a little bit more here on our podcast, because we're now, well, I don't know. It's just like the vaccine, everything, things will be going with COVID, and then they go back and forward and back. And, there's just, it's a lot. But I will say I am definitely seeing more shows that I see fellow singers and, artists, announcing and promoting in-person shows. So we're definitely starting to move in the direction of live shows. But we started thinking about what are some things you have to think about in accepting a gig or booking a gig, or, because it's not like we're just going right back to how it was.
Right. We can't just jump right back in and create the same problem. So
Exactly. And so we just explored, obviously we had different people who brought up questions and points and comments. So it kind of spawned us to think about things that I hadn't even really thought about. So I wanted to kind of just talk with you, Dr. Smith, today about, some major things I think that we do need to keep in mind, and not get so excited, just get overly excited to get back on the stage that we don't think about some critical things moving forward, from virtual to in person. The other thing that really came up was this, don't sleep on virtual. Virtual is here to stay.
It is. Yeah. And you threw that doctor in. I'm not a medical doctor.
No.
I am a music doctor.
He's a music doctor.
So although music is medicine, but
it is,
but yeah, no, I think that people really need to take your time, plan, just like we talked about planning your release, plan your performances, and plan your coming back, talk to venues who's actually interested in having live performances. And some don't just be the first one to jump out in there. I know some other folks in the jazz community are having like pop-up concerts, and they're doing concerts on people's lawns and backyards, and they're having outdoor performances to bring people in, and so they're creating their own venue. Like we had talked that way back in one of our early podcasts about creating your own, booking venues and things. And so that's sort of what some of these folks are doing. But, some venues like playing inside of a venue, and it's kind of something you have to think about if you're not vaccinated. But hopefully by the end of next month, everybody that wants a vaccine will be able to get one or have one. So I would say probably by June, and pretty much by July, everything will start opening, and all venues will be open.
Yeah, I think if you're a venue who's been able to survive,
there you go.
Because unfortunately, there's a lot of smaller venues which really housed a lot of independent and emerging and developing artists, may not be able to open their doors again just because a whole year loss of revenue, they may not have been able to sustain that. And I think 9 times out of 10, they were. But so I think you brought up some good things, outdoor versus indoor. That's one thing I want us to talk about for consideration. I think also producing your own event versus getting booked.
Yeah.
And so maybe we can explore those kind of two areas. And then if we have some other thoughts, we can kind of conclude with that. But the whole, indoor versus outdoor, I think that, yes, the weather is chirping, starting to, spring is trying to, although I'm in Chicago and spring, she's bipolar.
She takes her time.
She gets nostalgic. I miss winter. Let me just bring her back for a day. So, but I think overall, obviously, we're going to be starting to shift more toward the summer season. And so, I think the more you have the ability to be outside is always going to be more favorable, because you can just mitigate social distancing so much easier with that. So I think that, festivals, I'm hearing, are starting to, do things. And I had the opportunity to talk to a person who He's on the other side. He's not an artist, but he does, he's like a promoter and booking. And so what he's been doing is scoping out how different venues, festivals are kind of, getting themselves back on board so he can know how to set conditions up appropriately for artists, which I thought, and so I think the safety is then where I kind of want to go into is, I think it's really important, like you said about the vaccine situation, obviously it's still your choice, but understand, we still do have a pandemic. And when you are a singer or a wind instrument, it's not 6 feet, it's not 10 feet, it's not 12 feet, it's like 18 to 20 feet. Wow. That you need to, the different, I was just on not too long ago, a virtual Zoom with Grammy Music Cares, some local coaches. And they were talking about because obviously when you're singing, you're the velocity, you're forcing.
You're projecting, yep.
And it's the same for wind instruments, for horns, and, they're doing the same idea. And so as an artist, particularly as singers and musicians, you have to be looking out for your safety. And so I think that it's just really important when you are looking to book something, or if you're being asked to perform for something, you need to hear what are their safety precautions, and not just, everybody's going to be wearing masks you need to know what's the setup for you. Are you going to be, how many feet away? Where's your stage placed at? What's the expectation pre-show, post-show? Are you going to be doing greets afterwards? Are you selling merch in person? How are you handling that? Because that's different people coming up to you. All those things need to be considered. And if something were to happen, legally, liability-wise, what is on the table? Right. So,
I would say put that in your contracts. I hadn't even, because I'm not really performing live, so I hadn't even thought about that. But if I was, that's definitely a consideration I would have, because I have a standard performing contract, and this is a whole different circumstance. So put that in your last paragraph. What are the repercussions, or things that you can get. Just put it down in writing for that. But it's a lot to think about. And then I would say, if you're performing, or if you're trying to book yourself and you're looking for venues that you're trying to get into, know the venue, know how big the stage is, how much can you social distance.
Right.
And if really what I would be looking for is outdoor spots, places where you can play outdoors. That at this point in time, like for this season, maybe as we get closer to the holidays or something like that, you might consider the traditional small stage type of setups that we're used to. But right now, I would really look for outdoor, large stage type of places where everybody can space out, have their own area, and really just control the dynamics of what they're dealing with, so they don't get put into any potential situations.
Yeah. And back to what you were saying, as far as putting it in writing, if you're needing help with that, this is when that handy lawyer, this is when it's really important. And especially this is so new. I'm sure you can Google a little bit of something to kind of see some language, but if I keep my attorney in my back pocket. Like he's not on, some crazy retainer where he's getting all this money from me because I'm not using him regularly. But when situations like this, and I absolutely know that he could get in there and write the language the way it needs to be, make sure you consider that. And every state typically has some pro bono attorney availability, especially within the arts. If you are having, some difficulty with finding that, typically I'd have to kind of find an exact resource, but that is quite typical, because attorneys, they are asked to do a fair amount of hours pro bono. And this is a nice, simple kind of direct. It's just, I just need some language for a contract. The other thing, when you were talking about venues, I will say that most of the venues that I'm seeing that are opening, they are definitely, they know that they have some big liability situation.
Yeah, they don't.
Right.
So they don't want to survive a pandemic only to be shut down on a lawsuit.
Exactly. And so a lot of them are, they're definitely doing limited capacity. I know here in Chicago at City Winery, they're opening up and starting to do shows again. And City Winery, typically, I think it could seat 350 or 400 people, and they're doing 50. They're down to 50 people. You can only buy tickets in group of 2s or group of 4s because they don't want any parties to be in other words, when you're at a table, you're sitting at a table only with people you came with.
Got you.
And then the stage at City Winery, I know is a very small stage. So I'm not quite sure how artists, what they're doing, but usually artists were right there. So I know that there's not going to be housing it that way. I'm sure they're shifting all of that. And I think the food situation, dining, it's contactless, no contact with the order. So a lot of these places have definitely, they know to open their doors, they had to go through the whole state, regulations when it regards this. So but a really established venue like City Winery, you probably can trust that they are doing the best and the most that they know how to do to make sure they can function. But if it's just little blowjos, pub and whatever, you need to check on, which, a lot of us play at. If they are saying we want you, you really need to look at safety if it's indoors. And if it's outdoors, even though it's outside, you still want to understand the capacity and you still want to understand the flow of people and how they interact with you. I was really, really surprised. I saw in Miami, which is Florida, and I know Florida and Texas are our two kind of leaders in loosey-goosiness with precautions. But I did see, I think Vivica Fox or some other people had done some kind of comedy show indoors at a venue in Miami. And, one of my cousins took a picture with her. And I'm like, she's just letting herself stand pictures with people, and I've seen that a lot. And I'm no mask, in the picture. And so you do want to, everybody to each their own. I know me personally, I would not be comfortable with doing meet and greets after my show or before my show, because I don't have any idea of what, who, when, where. We're just not at that point yet. We'll get there eventually. We're not there right now. To me, we're not there right now.
Yeah,
so
I just
that's my
think
comfort level.
Yeah, I mean, really, if you're vaccinated, then you do have a level of comfort or confidence, because if you do catch COVID, you won't die. But if you're not vaccinated, you don't know. It's a crapshoot. So
it's a crapshoot. And even if you're vaccinated and know you won't die, but you're now a carrier.
Right.
So now you have to be, if you're thinking about the people around you, you could be transmitting this unknowingly.
Yeah.
So, again, that gets us back into COVID talk, but it is there is a real science happening here, whether we like it, dislike it, government, all the things. But your safety, is just, I'm with what Will said at the beginning. Don't be so quick to run and rush. Take your time, and you really have to use discernment. I have now been started to get asked to perform. The soonest date was in October. I said that I was okay right now for us to put it as a little placeholder and pencil. I haven't announced that, so don't be going, I'm considering
it's pencil.
It's pencil. It's actually, what's less than pencil. It's got about 5 eraser marks attached to it.
Nothing is signed.
Yeah. So just use that. So those are some just basic things to think about. So there's a lot of other layers to that.
What I would tag on to what we're talking about, and you wanted to move into this too, is the virtual aspect. What I would say is probably a great way to do it, and I've seen a lot of people do this. Not a lot, but some jazz musicians in the area and some folks that like to perform. They'll have their outside concerts, and like I said, they'll book like backyard concerts. And they actually have a sign-up list for folks if you want a concert in your backyard. And so they have a list and then they'll create the flyer of it's just basically like a tour flyer, like everybody does. These are the backyards we're hitting at during the month or this summer or whatever. But what you could do is have that in conjunction with your virtual. So you video the backyard performances as your virtual performance, and so you're tagging both sides of the coin. You're staying safe, and you're having a live outdoor performance, but you're also online doing your virtual thing.
Right. And that was the other huge part of our discussion that we had on Clubhouse, was the fact that virtual now is probably going to be the other line that's a part of your setup when you're performing now. You absolutely want to be able to still have virtual capacities, so that obviously people who are not comfortable with coming but do want to still support and still listen, they can still watch. Obviously, that gets into a whole lot because there's a lot of new technology platforms, third-party things, who, you can kind of get linked in with. You could be as basic as just have somebody with their phone and they stream it live somewhere, or if that needs to be a more ticketed, if you want to still charge people for that virtual thing, which I would encourage you to. Because it's a way to really capitalize. Because again, if I'm at City Winery and I only have 50 people in the audience, 50 times, do the math. That's not going to
bring the revenue.
That's not going to bring the revenue. But if I have those 50 people, but then I'm streaming to 200 people or 500 people or 50 more people, it's giving. So there's a lot of venues are accommodating that now.
Yeah. Well, plus you can do it in conjunction with the venue. The venue might have extra funds to basically set it up for you, hire an actual professional videographer, and you all can both split, just like you split the bar or split the tickets, split the online virtual attendance.
Right. A lot of venues are definitely, doing that, looking into doing that. The other way is where I've been seeing people do is maybe having a really, really small studio audience. So maybe it's just 25 people or so, and you get a small venue and you perform and you have it professionally recorded. So you have a pre-recording. So you got the energy of the live audience so that you're not just performing without that. You have the energy, but you have it pre-recorded so that it's professionally shot in a way that you can then air it on, do a watch party or what have you. And you can get really creative with that watch party. You can make that watch party where, again, it's ticketed. You could make that watch party. If you wanted it to be free or, donations, cash apps or whatever, you could do that however you want. And then you also have this beautiful footage of yourself. So you can take clips, post it in your social media, your YouTube pages. There's a lot of ways. And that becomes, a bit of an investment because obviously to hire, you've got to have the venue, the space. But that's why I say get a little bit of a live audience that pays a little bit to be there. Create a decent experience for them. And then when you do, your watch party or what have you, maybe tag a little bit of funding to that as well. So it actually is going to really open the doors to a lot more. Honestly, with the ability to now, do things virtually and in person. But again, you need to be strategic. You need to think it through. You need to take your time. And you need to, think of all the steps, not just, oh, this is a great idea.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. And, just idea wise, I think some people can do some versus concerts.
Yes.
Some bands can do some versus concerts or
a lot of people. I've started to see some of that too.
Yeah. Like wedding bands. That'd be awesome. The different wedding bands doing a versus. It'd be good promo for both of them. And one thing idea you could do is do a versus against yourself,
Oh, wow.
On stage and then leave the stage to come back in another outfit, be an alternate ego.
Well, this is a really good time to also do some really nice virtual listening parties of your new material. So don't always think, I know we're all used to having the release party show and well, that's a really wonderful thing to be able to do online now. You can share your screen, you can if you have videos, if you just want to audio play some things, if you created a lyric video, with one of your releases, it's a really nice way to just kind of welcome people. And you can ticket it. And I encourage you to, because if you don't, customers are going to get really used to this free content. And when it's time for you to charge, they're not, that might be a little bit harder pulling from them. So we're about done, but I did want to, the other thing we talked about, or that you had also mentioned was Was it the booking of your own versus getting booked by?
Yeah, well, that's one of the things we were sort of dancing around. Is just if you're getting booked at a venue, just really make sure that their standards, their health standards, are up to snuff, and ask them all the questions you need to ask, and then get everything on a contract.
Right.
And just make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. But if you're doing your own live performances, like we said, booking backyard gigs, just the same deal. Be mindful of spacing, masking, and of course, horn players can't really mask when they're playing their horns.
Right,
but,
and same with singers. I mean, although I am starting to see singers perform with masks, I did see that recently, which was a little interesting.
Yeah, and there's a saxophonist I know. I've seen him do some live virtual concerts. The whole band is in the back. Everybody's in the shot. He's the only one not wearing a mask because he can't. So everybody else is wearing a mask. So
yeah, and that's I think most of the band, if you're from drummer to obviously guitar, or if you're just not having to use your mouth,
right?
then being masked up. Yeah. One last thing, and then we're going to let you guys go, is, I did have some artists ask, what do we charge when it's virtual? If there is a venue and they want to do virtual, what's reasonable for me to ask? And that is all over the board, because it really depends on so many factors. It depends on your worth, your history of how you typically getting paid. I don't think that you should just assume because it's virtual, you shouldn't get paid. Right. Or that you should somehow really, really lower your rates. I don't think that at all, because honestly, that promoter or host or venue or whatever has the capacity to make a whole lot of money by doing this virtually, because now they have the room. If their place only traditionally held 500 people, now they have access to thousands of people. So, should you get paid, you need to get paid accordingly. So this is again, but just to be thinking, there's a lot of layers to that. There's
one more piece of that I just popped in my head. When you get your contract set up, also include, this is very key, include that they cannot release your recordings.
Yeah.
They cannot release your live recordings. Yeah. If you're doing it collaboratively, yes, they want to make some money on it, and only put that they can broadcast it on their website or Facebook page as promotional material.
Right.
Other than that, they cannot release anything from any live performance that you do, because if it's not in writing, a venue could just take that live recording and be like, "Can you live?
Here, pay me this."
All they got to do is pay you the regular royalties, but they making the money from the other side of the publisher.
Right, they're making from the other side, right? So so there's a lot of legs. We just wanted to introduce this idea to get your brain thinking. Obviously, you probably have some questions. If you have questions, feel free to email them to us at 3mbpodcast@gmail.com. And obviously, if we're able to answer, we will. If we're not, we'll try to refer you to a space that could answer. But you should be, starting to think of this if you're a performing artist and you're wanting to get back to performing. And it's better to start exploring some of that now, so that as things ramp up, you're more prepared.
Yeah. Great. Lots to think about. This was good.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was good. It was really good. So, all righty. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Continue to tune in. Like I said, we'll be back again with another kind of topic, and then we'll be bringing in more guests. So make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube channel, watching us, listening to us, subscribing on the podcast platforms, listening to us on dcradio.org. Or Gov, I always mess that up. dcradio.gov. Goodness. Listen to us in syndication there every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that is all.
Awesome. We'll see you all next week.
We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. Please subscribe to our podcast on your podcast player and leave us a rating and review. Also, please leave us a comment on our Facebook or Instagram page. And if you would like to contact us about a specific topic, you can email us at 3mbpodcast@gmail.com.